Alright, so welcome back to another Malaysian Motoring video. Today you join me test driving the Hyundai Tucson Turbo, which is the flagship model of the local Tucson range. Now this car is 143,888 ringgit on the road. There is a 2-litre MPI executive model available for 124,000 thereabouts if I'm not mistaken. But we've been given this flagship model. What do you get for the money? Well, there's a 1.6-litre turbocharged engine up front, producing 177 PS and 265 Newton meters of torque, with power sent to the front wheels via a 7-speed dual-clutch gearbox. You also get leather upholstery inside, full LED headlights outside, LED tail lights at the back, but only the brake lights and night positioning lights, yeah? The indicators and reverse lights are still regular bulbs, which is kind of annoying. You get a powered driver's seat, you get a manual front passenger seat, you get dual zone climate control with rear aircon vents, that's very useful, and you get a powered tailgate. These are all things that Malaysians like very much. Oh, also as standard, you get this 3M auto film tinting on the windows. You can see there's a little bit of difference there. I apologize if that's kind of screwed up the audio quality, but there is tint on this, which means it's anti-shatter and it reduces the amount of UV and heat transmitted into the cabin. All for one very easy price. Now, of course, you can read that on a brochure. Anyone can figure that out.
800 meters. Keep left.
This Waze interruption is starting to become a thing. Anyway, so anyone can read the spec list and figure that out. But there is something to this car that a spec sheet won't reveal, that even a test drive might not be able to. And that's what I intend to talk to you about. So, I've had this car for about a week, I think, thereabouts. I've filled it up several times, it's done many kilometers, and truthfully, because I drove the Hyundai Santa Fe prior to picking this car up, traffic stop. I drove the Hyundai Santa Fe prior to picking this car up, which is, as you know, the flagship of the Hyundai range, and it was in full 2.2-litre turbo diesel premium guys, had all the bells and whistles, and frankly, after having driven that and then suddenly jumping into this, I wasn't the most excited chap on the planet, because I was thinking about, you know, all the things that I'd miss, like the burgundy leather and the powered passenger seats and stuff like that. But actually, I've come to realize that this Tucson might actually be the better car. Let me explain. So the Santa Fe, as you know, is a 3-row, 7-seater SUV, which means it's quite large. This Tucson is a C-segment SUV. Think more on the lines of a Honda CR-V or a Mazda CX-5, and you're about there. And this is the better package in town. When I drove the Santa Fe, I drove it up to Penang, and if I'm honest, it felt a little bit unwieldy through the packed streets, oh, for God's sake, through the packed streets of Georgetown. But this car, I've been driving it around KL, I drove it to Malacca even, and it's perfectly fine. I've never felt stressed out, I've never felt particularly worried about the fact that this car is very large, because it is very spacious in here, and it's been a fabulous town companion. On top of that, the 1.6-litre turbocharged engine that's been fitted to this car is an absolute gem. Now, I've been driving it around on eco mode most of the time, but I'll tell you now that no matter what mode you're in, this car is incredibly efficient. And I mean incredibly efficient. It's so quiet, it uses so little fuel, and it's just a...
Exit left.
People cutting me off. And it's such a willing little mill to rev if you need it to rev out. I drove this car spiritedly through Malacca, through on the back roads and stuff like that, and I drove it on the motorway at relatively high speed, and the engine is muted throughout. It's only if you go well past the national speed limit, which we don't advise, that the engine becomes a bit more vocal, or of course under full throttle, which is not something that you'll be doing very often anyway. And when you're in town, some of you might be thinking, oh, a dual clutch gearbox means that it must be jerky when you're driving at town speeds. Well, I'm stuck in traffic right now, stop-start traffic, and I'm fine. It's very, very smooth, this thing. It feeds the clutch in and removes it very quickly and very smoothly, so you barely feel it. Of course, you have the natural dual clutch tendencies, like a slightly higher rev to take off and stuff like that, and you feel, you know, the sort of nonsense that you get with a clutch, but it's fine. Most people probably won't even notice that this is a dual clutch because it's just a really refined thing to use. In terms of the interior build quality, it's a bit of a hit and miss. So you have nice soft touch material on the dash, you have this leatherette material on the front of the dash, on the dash face, with stitching on it, and this is real stitching, yeah, not that fake plastic mold stitching that you get in Proton Iris or a Toyota Vios. This is real stitching, and it's properly soft. And the best part is, this thing allows you, this soft leatherette bit lets you rest your hand very comfortably when you're manipulating things on the floating 7-inch touchscreen. And not that you'll be doing that very often, because not only is it very simple to use, and there are hard buttons for you to access certain functions on the go, but this car also comes with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So most of the time you can just hit the little voice command button and you can tell Google or Apple what you want it to do. Oh, I'm so glad they didn't trigger Google. So, like I said, this car is very smart, it's very intelligent, it's very easy to use. If there is a complaint I have, again, it's some of the materials used in here. So on the on the door cards, you have this.
Exit left.
You have this soft pad down here where you rest your elbow, and that's really nice and nicely padded and stuff like that. But up here is a little scratchy. So this is not so nice. But mercifully, all the bits that you do touch on a regular basis, like the door handles, like that pad, those are nice and comfy. They feel very well built. And speaking of build quality, this car is basically flawless. And I do honestly mean that, because
exit left.
This is very much a town SUV. There's no denying that. I mean, it's for crying out loud.
Take the third exit.
There is no denying the fact that this is a town car. This is a town SUV. I mean, it's front-wheel drive. It's got a turbo-petrol. It's not an all-wheel drive off-road, you know, that sort of thing. This is not a car that you want to take into plantations and all sorts of things like that. But that said, I found a dirt track, and mercifully it'd been dry for the few days prior, so it was safe for me to go on. And even through lots of undulations, the sort of thing that would flex a chassis and reveal any of its weak points, it was great. It was firm, it was quiet, there were no squeaks, there were no rattles, just the squeaking and rattles of the people in the car with me. This car is amazingly stiff, which means that if you wanted to tackle some light off-roading, you shouldn't feel nervous about doing so. Right, that'll shut it up. You shouldn't feel nervous about doing so in your Hyundai Tucson. But of course, this is a town car. So driving it around town, having been stuck through traffic, how much have I done? According to the trip computer, I've done 955 kilometers as of right now, and the average fuel consumption level is 8.8 liters per 100 kilometers. This is particularly noteworthy because, compared to some of its contemporaries like the very, very popular Proton X70, this fuel consumption reading is excellent. On an X70, you will struggle even with the lightest of right foot. You will struggle to get anything less than about 9.5 liters per 100 kilometers. The only car I know that'll do better in this segment is the Honda CR-V, but that's got a 1.5 liter iVTEC turbo with a CVT gearbox. And we know that the letters CVT often strike dread into the hearts of those who hear it. So if you'd rather have a dual clutch over a CVT, this is it. The thing is, when I was talking to one of my editors about this car and about how I was going to present it, just to kind of spitball the ideas, what they asked me to do was to find some things that I don't like about this car. And to be completely honest, it's not been an easy task. Aside from the slightly scratchy plastics on some places, and it's not even like they've used it everywhere, but aside from that, this car has been very, very difficult to fault. Like I said, I've had it for a week, through which I've done long distance drives, I've done town drives, I've run errands, and it's just been a fabulous companion. This car is amazingly quiet, especially at high speed. And because of these 17-inch alloys, which might look a little bit small, but because they're relatively small, because there's a lot of tire, it means that even through the very worst potholes, like I went through some crap in Pudu and I went through some crap in PJ, even then, nothing ruffles this cabin. You feel a little bit of undulation, but the sharpest edges of a bump are very easily smoothed off, and that makes this car very, very easy to live with. Aside from that, oh yes, I don't like the smart trunk system, where if you have the key in your pocket and you stand by the boot for 3 seconds, it will automatically open. I find that very annoying because I have to walk around the car a lot, and if you're standing in the vicinity of the tailgate for more than 3 seconds, it pops open. But mercifully, that is something that you can shut off. Now, if you're still not convinced, let me talk to you about the drive experience. So, like I said, this car is very quiet at speed. You get very little wind noise, you get very little road noise. The tires on this car uses Goodyear Efficient Grip something or rather, and they are very, very good. On that dirt track, excellent. On the motorway, excellent. On back roads, excellent. It seems that Hyundai is relatively okay with picking their tires, because I remember poking fun at them for the Kumho tires that they fitted to the 2.4 litre, or rather to the executive variants of the Santa Fe, which were a bit noisy and a bit lacking in grip. These ones though, excellent, absolutely excellent. When you're driving at town speeds like I am now, the steering wheel is relatively neutral in terms of its weighting, but as you speed up, the steering wheel gets heavier and it gives you a degree of confidence. It's not the most communicative thing in the world, but it's not bad. Frankly, this is the everyman C-segment SUV. If you are looking for something big enough to carry your entire family, and I really do mean your entire family, 5 people can fit in here very comfortably, and all their crap in the back, and drive over relatively long distances in comfort, in ease, and with a massive amount of efficiency, this is the car for you. If, however, you want your SUV, your C-segment SUV, to be fun to drive, then unfortunately I have to point you in the direction of the Peugeot 3008 or perhaps the Mazda CX-5. Both of those cars are very, very good to drive, and unfortunately we haven't reviewed either of them, although that is something that we're trying to do in the near future. But honestly, if you're not interested in driving, if you're not a keen driver, this car is good for you. And I am a keen driver, and even I would buy one of these. I've really enjoyed having it, so much so that when I had to contact the PR person at Hyundai Sime Darby about returning this car today, I asked him if it's possible to forget that I have the car for another week or so. I really, really like this car. But all good things come to an end, including this video. And that has been the review of the Hyundai Tucson. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to hit the little bell icon so that you're notified every time we make a new upload. If you have any constructive comments, leave it in the comment section below. If you have any questions about the industry, about cars, or if you're looking to buy a new car and you want the best deal on your new car and the best service center out there, just send us a message on Facebook. Also, don't forget to follow us, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And if you enjoyed my presentation, you can follow me at Ayman I Abdullah, both on Instagram and Twitter. Thanks so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next video.